Hello, good evening, everyone. As you're all coming in here from the waiting room, thank you so much for attending this evening. This is our online Masters in Business Analytics program information session. A little bit about tonight, just a quick agenda. So we're going to go over some of the introductions of our staff who are here with us tonight. We are going to talk about the format of the program that you'll be hopefully attending, our curriculum highlights. We're going to talk about what it's like to be an online student here and go over an overview of that. We're also going to talk about the application checklist. So if you haven't submitted your application already, what it is you need to do that. And then lastly, we'll have a live Q&A at the end. So if at any point during our presentation tonight you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. We'll answer those all live at the end of the presentation this evening. So to get started, my name is Michael McGurr. I'll be our host this evening. It's nice to meet you all. I'm our admissions coordinator for our online business programs. I'm going to pass it over to Devin next to introduce herself.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Costa. I am the program specialist for online graduate programs at the School of Professional Studies, and I oversee the operations of our Masters in Management, Organizational Leadership, and our business analytics programs, and am a resource for all of our students.
Great. Thank you, Devin. Thank you very much. Jennifer, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Przinski. I'm the graduate recruitment coordinator for our Master's in Business Analytics program. And I think I've probably spoken with many of you as an initial point of contact here for the program. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jen. And of course, most importantly, last but not least, Andrew, if you want to introduce yourself here tonight.
We'll be happy to, Mike. Hello, everyone. Glad you are here. My name is Andrew Banashevich. I'm the professor of practice of business analytics here at SPS at Brown University, where I also serve as the academic director for the program. And just sort of in a way of very brief introduction, I spent the first half or the majority of my working career as an industry practitioner in the realm of quantitative business analysis, risk analytics, data science. So this program is particularly near and dear to my heart because it essentially reflects pretty much the entirety of my career. And having had the pleasure of shaping much of it, I'm really very happy to be able to share it with you because what I can tell you is that given my own background and experience, we made sure that the program is about as closely aligned with industry sought after skills and competencies as it can be. So you guys have come to absolutely the best place to get your business analytics education. Glad you're here.
Thank you
Back to
so
you,
much,
Mike.
Andrew. And I couldn't agree more. You've definitely come to the right place for your business analytics program. So a little bit about that program, our program format for this online program. It is 100% conducted online asynchronously. What that means and how that benefits you is that it's a completely asynchronous program that you get to work at on your own time. So this program really is designed for folks who are working professionals. Other things going on in your life. It lets you, attend to those while also still taking your courses and working at your own pace. What we also do in this program, though, to really help, blend, that kind of that in-person learning maybe that you may have had in the past, is we have weekly optional synchronous sessions where you're going to hop on with your faculty members, your peers in your cohort. Talk about what it is that you're learning that week. What have you been working on? What did you learn in that week's lessons? So it is a great opportunity to blend that asynchronous and synchronous nature of an online program. Tuition for our program currently sits at $8,375 per course, and you do take 2 courses per semester for a total of 8 courses. So again, that's going to be 4 consecutive semesters for a total of 16 months. So just threw a lot of numbers there, although we're all business analysts, so we should be able to process those. So again, that's going to be 8 courses total. That's 4 consecutive semesters over 16 months. We do have part-time options available where a student could attend and take 1 course per semester. So I just want to make sure our students are aware of that. And we do offer up to 50% merit-based scholarships are available for our applicants. And again, those are going to be merit-based based on things like your resume, your academic background, your personal statement, letter of recommendation. So we really do take a holistic look at our applicants when determining merit-based scholarships. And then lastly, we do offer optional 2.5-day in-person sessions where you're going to get to come to campus, meet your faculty in person, meet your other peers that you're in the program with, which is a really cool opportunity to kind of culminate a lot of that online learning that you've been doing. All right, I'm going to pass it back over to Andrew to talk a little about some of the highlights of our curriculum.
Thank you, Mike. So, just as Mike mentioned, you obviously can go part-time. In fact, I don't know if you are familiar with it, but sort of the rule that or policy that Brown University subscribes to is that you really have 5 years to complete your master's degree from the very first day that you start the program. So, in theory, you could really stretch it out over up to 5 years from the time you first enroll. So what we're showing here is just, these 4 consecutive semesters. It's just sort of under the assumption that someone would come in, be a full-time student, and proceed that way. But you can do it in a bunch of other ways, just so long as you finish within those 5 years, which is, as you can imagine, quite a bit of time. So with that being said, coming in again under the assumption that you're a full-time student coming in your first semester, the 2 courses are sort of kind of an intro into the world of classical statistical analysis for business analytics and some of the decision-making considerations. So essentially, if you think about business analytics kind of as a field that has evolved over the past several decades, early on, we primarily worked with statistical techniques, largely because of the computational demands that the machine learning algorithms had. And back, a couple of decades ago, the technology, the availability of fast processing power was, it was there, just was not accessible to everyone everywhere. So anyway, so basically, you first get introduced into the what I would call classical ways of working with data, which is still hugely popular, hugely important. AI it has not killed it, will not kill it, because there are certain types of data and certain usage situations for which use of statistical analysis is still and will be supreme. So those will be the 2 first classes that you take. Then that will be followed by taking a deeper dive into data curation, exploration, and visualization. So that's sort of like saying, well, if you're a business analyst, one of the most fundamental tasks that you would be engaged in pretty much daily is curating data. Curating meaning taking messy data and making it ready to use. So there's an awful lot involved in it. It can be quite involved, quite complicated, depending on the type of data that you're working with. So you will learn all of the different techniques, approaches, and sort of the logic and the rationale of that. And then that will be followed by sort of data exploration and visualization. So it's sort of like saying, well, now that you made those data ready for analysis, why don't you tell us a story? So why don't you explore data looking for interesting patterns and relationships? And hey, if you're going to communicate that story, why don't you use compelling data visualizations? Because for many people, picture is indeed worth 1,000 words. It is a lot easier, a lot more effective to communicate a trend using some sort of a graph or chart than it is to describe it verbally or using words. So that will be the first class, your second semester. That will be followed by predictive analytics. So if you think of exploratory analysis being sort of a simpler kind of like the entryway into traditional analytics, building predictive models and forecasting models sort of represents the next step in that learning. So that would be your next class. And then your third semester, you're switching gears, and now we're jumping into machine learning. And so your first class, machine learning and deep learning. So it's primarily going to be focused on machine learning algorithms, especially with the emphasis on supervised and unsupervised learning algorithms using for classification, prediction, and general overview of deep learning. I mean, deep learning is more of a computer science technology. So obviously that's more about just understanding how those systems functions, less so about using those to conduct specific types of analyses. And then that will be followed by taking even a deeper dive into sort of modern data power technologies, looking at large language models, which is what's behind generative AI and some of the leading applications of those approaches. And so the focus here will be twofold. First is just to give you a general understanding of what large language models are, how they work in a very general sense, and what they use as input data. And you know, in that sense, how do they fit in with traditional statistical analysis and the sort of lesser sophisticated supervised, unsupervised machine learning algorithms, because they each have a very distinct place and they each work with different types of data and they each are suited to somewhat different and distinct types of informational outcomes. So that's what you will learn in your third semester. And then your final semester, fourth semester, the first course is multimodal analytics. So multimodal analytics is sort of analogous to someone asking you a question, something like, well, what do our customers look like? So let's say you work for some kind of a consumer product goods company and one of the big brands, and they said, well, we'd like to get a baseline, a profile of our customers. And so to do that, you would pull together different types of information from different sources. So you would look at your internal sales data, and you typically would use some statistical analysis. You would also want to tap into consumer sentiments and opinions. So that's where large language models and generative AI can come in and look at some sort of a predictive characteristics using classification or prediction machine learning algorithms. So multimodal analytics is all about sort of teaching you how to pull it all together. So how to use diverse but complementary ways of analyzing, again, diverse but complementary types of data in a way that it all contributes to providing a singular but fuller answer to a particular business question. And then the very last class is your business analytics capstone. So that is a hands-on 100% applied project. So we're going to source real life data, present a real life problem that's commonly tackled in the industry. And then basically you will be guided through the process of working on that project where you solve a real life problem using real world data, using the knowledge that you acquired in the course of the program here. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So Mike, back to you.
Great, thank you, Andrew. And if you don't mind telling us a little bit about why business analytics?
Well, because you know, as they say, the data is the currency of 21st century, right? Or the information age. So there are all those a bit of a cliche expressions, but the fact of it is that, you know, data and the use of data is at the center of just about everything. You know, the manner in which companies make decisions, the choices they make, it's all sort of driven by thoughtful, considerate, and skillful exploration of available and applicable data. And business analytics is a skill set that enables you to do that. Now, there is a sort of line of distinction or line of demarcation that I'd like to draw here between business analytics and data science. So because sometimes the distinctions gets a bit of a lost in the shuffle. And so the difference is if someone who is interested in becoming a data scientist, they just basically want to spend their days crunching data and making otherwise messy and very thorny and sort of very difficult to work with data usable, sometimes only to the point of making it usable and handing it over to someone else who now wants that those data have been cleansed and restructured and made ready for use, that someone can then, you know, utilize it on their own. So that's data science. Now, of course, that also involves building complex predictive models and the like. But essentially, the function of a business analytics, of a data scientist, is, you know, squarely focused on data, so much so that you don't really pay much attention to a broader business context. In a way of a contrast, then a business analytics professional is someone who still has the skills and competencies to make data usable and conduct various types of business analysis, but then goes beyond just data crunching and say, hey, what does it all mean? How can I interpret those results in a way that is valid and reliable, meaning that doesn't overstep the limitations of data and how I analyze those data, but how can I tell a story? How can I translate the often esoteric data analytic results into informative decision guiding insights? And so there is a tremendous amount of learning that takes place at that point. There are people who are really good technicians, but they just aren't as proficient at sort of translating those not always self-evident results into something that's meaningful to everyone else. And so business analytics professionals do have that skill in addition to also having the technical skills. So as you can imagine, it's a powerful skill set to have in the industry, very much in demand. And so that is the best answer that I can give you to why analytics. And then, you see some of the other considerations here on the screen as well. But from my perspective, as someone who spent several decades doing this work in the industry and then teaching it in academic settings, I have got to tell you, it is a terrific, terrific profession. And so this is the idea of data analytic literacy is something that I've worked on for a while. I've written about it in different books and other sources, but it's sort of at the core of what we want to teach you guys here. What does it mean to be data analytically literate? And so this graphic here summarizes what it's all about. So first of all, you have to develop the conceptual knowledge. You have to understand why you are doing what you're doing, why you're making the choices, why would you use this particular method, why would you subject data to that particular transformation. Those choices have to be grounded in deeper understanding of the underlying rationale and why is this the correct choice as opposed to a different way. So that is in relation to data. So here, when you see data in way of type and content, so sort of understanding how you manipulate, how you make data analysis ready. And oftentimes there is a lot to be done because when you stop and think about it, the majority of data we have in business were captured by all manner of electronic transaction processing and other systems. And so the way that those systems capture data and then store them optimizes storage efficiency, not usage. So then when you take data out of whatever storage system they're in, oftentimes they're structured in a way that doesn't at all lend itself to immediate usage. So so you have to understand, you have to have the know-how of how to change it. And then the second part of it is methods, right? You have to understand why you're going to use this particular approach to analysis of data as opposed to another. So to give a simple example, why would you use a t-test as opposed to a chi-square test, right? So those are the kinds of elements of knowledge that you would learn, that you are going to learn first and foremost. And so that is coupled with applied skills because we are a school of professional studies. So our goal is not to teach you about analytics. Our goal is to teach you how to function as a business analyst. And so in order to be able to function as one, you have to have the skills. You have to know how to do things. So you have to have proficiency with different tools that are used to compute, to manipulate data, to compute whatever types of outcomes, estimates you want to compute. And then the last part on the right-hand side is the idea of sense-making, meaning how do you interpret results? And there is a lot more to it than what might meet the eye, but you will learn it all in the course of your studies here. And so this is sort of the essence of what I was just trying to convey here, that the program, as you look across all 8 courses that comprise it, is really at the intersection of these 2 key elements. It's combining conceptual knowledge with applied skills. So everything that you learn is going to have this understand why you are doing that. Tell me why you think this is an appropriate step to take or an appropriate choice to make. And then the second part is, well, great. So this makes sense what you said. Now show me how you're going to do it. And because that's where the proverbial rubber meets the road, right? You have to be able to execute. You have to be able to take data and actually produce the outcomes that are of interest. So that is the essence of our program here. You know what you're doing, you know why you're going to do it, and you know how to do it. And so lastly, the approach that we're taking here and again, this is rooted in a lot of experience, not just my decades of experience working in the industry, but my colleagues too, because I bounced a lot of those ideas of the people that I know and whose judgment I trust. And so there's pretty much a uniform agreement when it comes to how business analytics is applied in actual business context. And when you stop and think about it, business organizations use it as a way of creating value, right? So how do you create value with business analytics? Well, I have a problem on my hand. I'm trying to make a decision. I don't know whether I should go left or right. And so, well, I can guess, generally not a very erudite option to take, or I can avail myself of some objective information that is going to guide my decision making in a direction that is more likely to be more advantageous. And so in a way, that all sort of boils down to the fact that, if you look at business analytics as it is practiced in the industry, it is essentially a 5-step process. The first is purpose, meaning what do you need to know? Tell me what is the problem we're trying to solve here. So, okay, here's the problem. Now that I know that, let me look around and what data are both available and applicable, right? So it has to be both. It has to be available. I have to be able to get to it. And it has to be applicable, meaning it has to be related in one way or another to the problem at hand. And say, okay, now that I have the data, how would I analyze it? Again, keeping in mind the purpose. So it's not analysis just for the sake of analysis, but analysis that are informed by the desire to answer the stated business question. And so, I choose the methods, I choose the analysis, and the last part is how do I answer the question? So I've done a bunch of tests. I have my t-test, chi-square test. I built a regression model. Okay, those are all, nice sounding terms, but what does it really mean? And how does that answer my question as to which of the two options is going to be more advantageous? So answering that question in a way that is methodologically robust is not always easy, but it's a very essential part of being a skilled business analyst. So all of that is what's going to guide, how we're going to teach you basically how to become a high-functioning business analyst who is going to have skills that are very much sought after in the industry. I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Andrew. A really
You're welcome.
insightful look, not only into what the program covers, but the why behind it. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. Devin, next I'm going to toss it back to you to talk a little about the online student experience here at Brown.
Great, thank you, Mike. So here are a couple of important resources and details that will be useful to you as a student. So in terms of logistics for your classes, all of our courses can be accessed from anywhere using the Canvas Learning platform. This is where you'll find course recordings, assignments, group discussions, as well as your grades. It's essentially a centralized hub of learning. We will not just throw you into it. We do have guides to use it, but it is a very user-friendly system. Upon graduation, the degree awarded to you will be a Master of Science in Business Analytics. So this means that your diploma will not include the word online, and nor will your official transcript. For graduation, all online graduates are invited to Brown's in-person commencement ceremony in May, but we will also host a virtual ceremony for those who aren't able to travel to Providence, but either one and both are available to you. One thing we really want to make clear is that regardless of where you are, whether you're close to Providence or somewhere far away, our students are full members of the Brown community. And this gives you access to a lot of really great resources. One of those is Brown's online library, our career services, which I'll dive into a little bit more in just a moment, Brown's Virtual Foundations and Resource Center, which offers additional programming resources so you can brush up on things like math and your writing skills. And you will also have a dedicated support team from application process all the way through to graduation and then as an alum. So one of the great benefits of attending Brown University is taking advantage of our many resources. And one of our most robust resources is our career services and professional development team. Here are a couple of ways you can utilize their services. As a general hub, you can use our virtual careers center where you can explore career paths, check latest industry news, seek career advice, and keep up with other market insights. You're also welcome to schedule appointments for direct career advising via Handshake, which is Brown's recruiting platform for students, where you can gain expert guidance on jobs and internship searches, refining your resume, negotiating offers, and working on interview skills. They also have a new career bulletin Google chat community where job opportunities and upcoming career workshops are posted. Career Services also has their readiness programs, and within this, they host a large number of in-person as well as virtual events connecting students with all kinds of experts, networking opportunities, and skill training. And I realize some of you aren't looking for jobs, but this is still a wonderful department to connect with if you're looking to network and meet other people in your field. So there are great ways to get involved with the overall Brown community, and here are a couple of ways you can do so. There's Brown Connect, which functions as a networking and career platform where students can connect with peers, alumni, as well as with professionals across industries. Students also have access to the Brown Daily Herald, which is the university's student newspaper, as well as Today at Brown and Events at Brown, which are daily email digests that highlight university news as well as upcoming events. And many of these events are hosted virtually, so you are welcome to attend. Graduate students can also subscribe to a variety of listservs for academic resources, community updates, as well as networking. And then we also have centers and student groups. We have the Graduate Council, which is the governance body of graduate students, and they do include online representation. So if you would like to get involved with student government, you're welcome to do so. Brown also offers a range of cultural and identity-based centers and groups, and this includes, but is certainly not limited to, the following. The Brown Center for Students of Color, the Global Brown Center for International Students, the Sarah Doyle Center for Women and Gender, the LGBTQ Center, and the Military Affiliated Students Group. Each of these groups host their own events and have their own ways of community building. So if you're looking for more ways to engage with the Brown community, some of these are wonderful ways to do so.
All right, thank you so much, Devin. And of course, if anything we said here tonight really sparked your interest, you said, wow, I want to apply to that program tonight. We got great news. You certainly can. And I'm going to actually pass it over to Jennifer, who's going to talk a little bit about what the application checklist is going to look like.
Yeah, thank you all. So I know some of you may have started the process, some are just starting to think, are you going to apply? Hopefully you will. If you have questions, definitely reach out to us as you work your way through the process. We're here to help. But just kind of going into it for what is required for our application for the Online Masters in Business Analytics. You do need to have your bachelor's degree earned from an accredited institution, and also a resume or CV, either format is acceptable. And that should show that you have at least 2 years of full-time professional work experience. I know that question comes up quite often, but we are looking for those 2 years of full-time experience. If you have questions about that, definitely reach out and we can work through that together. We also require 3 letters of recommendation, and one of those letters should come from a supervisor or manager that you have had either currently or formerly recently for that third letter. Official transcripts from institutions that you would have attended. When you apply, you'll be able to upload unofficial transcripts. And then if you decide to enroll, then before you start that first semester, you will submit your official transcripts to us here at Brown. And a really great opportunity for you to share your story, why you're interested in the program, why Brown, is through the personal statement. And that's going to be 1,500 words or less, where you'll discuss why you're interested in pursuing this online master's in business analytics, why Brown, why now, share a bit about your background, what's got you to this point in your professional academic career, and how this particular degree is going to help you with your short and long-term professional and academic goals, essentially. And one other prerequisite for this program is 1 semester of college level statistics or math, with a grade of B or better is preferred within that in the last 5 years, is recommended. And again, if you have questions, definitely reach out and we can work through that as well together. And then if any students here are international students from outside the United States, if you've earned your degree from somewhere outside of the United States, we do require an international transcript evaluation, and you will need this before you can actually hit submit on your application. So this is one thing definitely to work on sooner rather than later in the application process to gather the necessary documents for that. And you can request that through WES, ECE, or SpanTran. And then the final piece for international students, depending upon your situation, would be the English language proficiency, either through the TOEFL, most commonly, and then you can see the different scores that would be required for those tests as well. And then as far as deadlines, we have now is kind of the perfect time to start the application process. Our early action deadline is coming up on March 15th, and applicants who apply and submit before that day will receive their $100 application fee waived. By attending this webinar this evening, for those of you who are here, you do have that extended beyond the March 15th date, so just keep that in mind. But our priority deadline then would be May 15th, and our final deadline for the fall semester of 2026 will be June 15th. And our start date for fall classes would be September 9th. Here's the website that you can get started on. And then again, that $100 application fee is waived if you apply by March 15th, and then extended if you're here live on the webinar this evening.
All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. All right, folks. So if you have questions, now is the time to please feel free to put them into the Q&A function. We're happy to answer any questions you might have, either anything we talked about tonight, things we didn't get to cover yet. Please feel free to put those questions in. We'll be happy to answer them. They can be for any member of our panel here. If you have questions about maybe specific courses that you heard about tonight, if you have the student experience, right, or the application process, please certainly put those in the chat function here this evening. Give everybody a couple minutes. So we had a question come in. Are we doing one course over a 7-week period or 2 courses per 14-week period? So it's 2 courses over the whole semester. So we don't break them up into one course and another. They do run concurrently with one another. And again, you could potentially take the part-time option as well, which would just be 1 course during that semester time period.
And then I think just to add to it quickly, Mike, it's important you guys keep in mind that unlike many other online programs that may use, say, 7 or 8 week long terms, Brown online courses are 14 weeks in duration, just like the regular on-campus courses. So in my opinion, and having taught in both the longer and the shorter, this is far better, simply because, especially when you're dealing with more technical content, it just takes longer for it to really sort of begin to make sense. And having it compressed in just 7 weeks, it really makes it a lot more challenging to assimilate a lot of that information. But just do keep in mind, it's one class is 14 weeks.
Thank you, Andrew. Devin, I think this one might be one you can talk a little bit more about the full-time, part-time. Students asking, if they start full-time, can they then go down to part-time later, if that's an option for them?
The short answer is yes, that is an option. We have our advising coordinator who will be working with you throughout the program. And if you want to adjust your workload, your course load, they're the person who can help you do that. So yes, you can absolutely go from full-time to part-time.
Thank you so much. We had another question come in about the application fee waiver. So that's applied automatically for attending here or previous to the March 15th deadline. It should be applied automatically. If you have issues with that, please reach out to either myself or Jennifer. We can work through that with you if you're having issues with the application fee. We had a question about our kind of targeted class size, because this would be our inaugural cohort. Ideally, we're looking for a cohort in the 20s, so that's kind of the group we're shooting for. May have more than that, or kind of a little less than that, but that's kind of what we're looking for is our low to mid 20s. So we had a question here. Andrew, can you just talk a little bit about kind of the work experience and what kind of you'd think for an applicant would be appropriate outside of our minimum of 2 years?
Right. So I see one person here saying that they have about 1.5 years of experience. It would be over 2 years by the time the class starts. Yes, I think that would be because I mean, effectively, that's when the 2 years would matter, right? When you first begin taking courses. So we definitely we would certainly take that into account and be flexible on that end. Yes. I mean, and just, the idea here is that, we simply want everyone to be able to not just learn, but also contribute and have a little bit of a perspective. Once you spend a little bit of time working in the industry, a lot of the things that you will be introduced to in the course of in the individual courses just will be a little easier to relate to. So that's really the background in terms of that particular requirement.
Great, thank you, Andrew. We had a question about electives. So we don't offer elective courses. That is a very prescribed program that we have with our online program. So it is the courses that we covered earlier. So we do not have electives for students.
Mike, there's a question in the chat I see as well outside the Q&A about opportunities for professional development and networking through Brown's Networks, especially given the program is going to be in its inaugural cohort and what that may look like.
Hey, Devin, I'm not sure if you want to maybe
Yeah,
tackle
I
that
can
one.
cover some of this. So think there's a couple of ways to look at it. So within the program, one of the kind of highlights is we do have this 2.5 day in-person, it is optional session where we bring together students from business analytics, students from organizational leadership, and from management together for all kinds of in-person lessons and experiences to come together to meet personally. So that's one opportunity. Within your courses, you'll also have discussion sessions. A lot of our students, they create apps to like chat with each other. There's a lot to do within the program. School of Professional Studies also has a lot of events. So I touched upon a few of them through career services, but the larger school will offer all kinds of opportunities to virtually interact with people within your program, as well as people from the greater SPS and Brown University. So there are a lot of opportunities for networking and engagement, regardless of if you're in person or not.
And then I think currently we were just discussing it earlier today in a meeting on campus, and then the school, meaning School of Professional Studies at Brown, is also working on finalizing the work on an sort of like an environment, if you will, kind of like I guess for lack of a better term, Facebook for current and former students and alumni. So you'll be able to connect not just with those who are in your particular cohort, but also will be able to reach beyond that, right? To anyone else in the larger Brown community who graduated from our other professional master's program. So you'll have access to a far larger professional network of Brown alumni as well. So it's quite a bit on that end that you'll be able to benefit from.
Great, thank you. And we did have another question come in the chat as well, kind of similar vein, just about access to campus resources. And I know Devin touched on this, but as an online student, you still have access to the same resources that our in-person students have as well. So things like they put here the campus library, things like that, study areas on campus. If you were to be in the Providence area, or maybe come visit the Providence area, you would have access to those same resources that our in-person students have.
Yeah, I really like to iterate that you're Brown students. This is your school, so you are welcome to come visit it. We do have virtual IDs for all of our students, but if you came to Providence, you could also pick up a physical one, and that gives you access to all of our buildings. So, and even regardless, if you want to come to the Brown Yell game, you can come. All you have to do is register in the events program. So this is your school, so you are welcome to come visit.
Absolutely. We have another question coming about the work experience, and they're asking, does this have to be while they were a student or professional work experience? We are looking for professional work experience, so ideally post-baccalaureate is going to be looking what we're looking for. If you do have questions, specifics about that, we know everyone kind of has unique circumstances. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Jennifer. We're happy to talk through that, maybe talk about your unique experience that you have. We had a student ask a question about the number of scholarships that are available, if there's a fixed number. So it's not necessarily a fixed number necessarily. Again, we're looking at the merit of our students who apply, and we look at each applicant holistically in order to determine that merit scholarship amount. Andrew, this might be one. The students asking if they have any recommended prep courses on something like, say, Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, or maybe specific areas that they might want to brush up on.
That's a very good question. And yeah, so what I would suggest is that you really spend some time looking at tools that you might be interested in developing competencies in, right? So as you know, there are all sorts of tools for analysis of data. They range from open source coding languages like Python and R to more systems like SAS or SPSS. And then you have data visualization tools like Tableau, QuickView, and so on. So what my suggestion would be first, what I would recommend is that you stop and think about, do you want to go down the path of the sort of syntax-based coding languages like Python or R, or are you interested in something like SPSS, which has its own syntax language, but it also has very elegant, very well-developed GUI, graphical user interface, that essentially allows you to do everything using point-and-click interface, drop-down menus, those kinds of things. And there are other systems that work on similar principles as well. And so, depending on your interest, and in our program, we're tool agnostic. So if you want to go one way, that's fine. If you want to go a different way, that's fine as well. So it's entirely your decision. Some people, like coding, but you have to keep in mind, it's a syntax language. So it's like learning a foreign language. So you have to invest a little bit of extra time into learning that particular logic and the syntax structure of that language. So if that's the path you want to take, my suggestion would be that would be ideal for a Coursera type course or something else. Now, similarly, if you want to go with something like SPSS, every tool has a bit of a learning curve. And so it would be beneficial to jump into it early, familiarize yourself with it. They all have tons of, how-to videos and manuals and whatnot. So you don't even have to take a formal course because there's just so much supporting material. But my recommendation would be start thinking about the kinds of tools that you would like to develop some expertise with, and begin learning those tools before you come into the program, because that will make your life easier. You won't have to learn the tool and learn the methods and learn the reasoning behind it. You'll already be largely comfortable with the tool, so it will kind of free up some of your time to focus more on other aspects of your learning.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. I do want to just put a last call for any questions you might have, as we're going to answer one of the last questions I see in our Q&A here. And it's about scholarships again. If we offer any other scholarships other than merit-based. So we do not offer any kind of need-based scholarships or any scholarships outside of our merit scholarships. But again, if you have specific questions about financing, please reach out to Jennifer or myself, Devin, and we're happy to put you in contact with our Graduate Student Financial Aid. They're a wonderful resource and have helped students find additional funding outside of our merit-based scholarships, or in lieu of that if a student was not offered a merit-based scholarship. All right, so I don't see any other questions coming in. So I want to thank you all again for coming here this evening. We really appreciate you taking the time to learn a bit more about our online Masters in Business Analytics program. Panel, does anyone have any final thoughts or anything they wanted to share before we wrap up?
Just wanted to say, if you have any questions specifically about the academic aspects of our program, individual courses or program in large, please feel free to email me directly. You can get my email from Mike, or you can just look it up on our website, or you can also look me up on LinkedIn and reach out to me that way. Don't hesitate. If you have any questions, please feel free. I'll be more than happy to provide additional information you might need. And again, thank you for attending tonight.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, panel. Thank you all again all so much for attending. We hope to see your application come through too. Okay. Have a wonderful evening.